When did you witness someone's large ego get absolutely flattened? I used to work at a photography studio. I'm not a photographer, but I know some basics. Photographer guy, probably in his 50s, tells me the equipment he rented isn't working, and he is ranting on about how he has wasted 25 minutes of his rental time because his camera wasn't syncing to the lighting equipment, all in front of his poor clients. Best moment of my life. As he was cursing me out, I walked over and wordlessly plugged it in. Never seen a grown man turn so red. Reminds me of that scene from Sling Blade. The guys are pondering why the lawnmower won't start up. It seems to be put together right, but it just won't start. It ain't got no gas in it. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=AYNXOLJYRKC. A guy in our union was running for some executive board position, and he was telling everyone what an easy win it was gonna be for him because nobody liked the other two people running for the job. Come election day, he got a very humbled awakening. Out of 1,300 people, he got less than 10 votes. He didn't speak to many people for a while after that. Nobody likes a braggart. Reminds me of my dad. He thought he was very highly regarded in our hometown. He decided to run for local office and lost the primary by a pretty large margin. He did not handle it well. Long ago, in college one semester for fun, I took swine management. I'm a total city girl, about 5 feet nothing, and at the time I was like 105 pounds soaking wet. I did learn how to restrain a hog in that class, and I got to know all the barn men really well. Next fall semester, I start my veterinary college courses. In large animal medicine, we had a block of, you guessed it, swine disease prevention. The professor was known to enjoy taking his students down a peg or two. Great. He covers basic swine restraint really fast. Like no way you'd be able to do this unless you already know how. He looks around, barn men are watching this show from the back. I didn't want to disappoint them, so I make eye contact with the prof, and of course he picks me to demo. I calmly walk up to the sow, take the rope, loop around the belly, twist, half itch into her mouth and tie her up. Barn men are like proud papas. Prof is like, WTF just happened? He asked me where I grew up. He's clearly thinking Iowa or something. I answer, the big city to the west. Best day ever. Some dude came into the pub I work at for the pub quiz. Kept going on about how he was smarter than all these bumpkins. I live in a university city, and that he was gonna get first prize. He was adamant, and he sat at the bar across from me the whole time. I played on my phone and named myself Bumpkin. He didn't even place in the top 10 and was furious that he got beaten by a bumpkin and a gang of old retired fuck-ups that have nothing better to do. I worked at support for my school while I was in college. One of my coworkers was the type who thinks they're the smartest guy in the room. One day he came in and couldn't get his monitors to work. After 10 minutes of watching him struggle, I tried to interject and help, but got a long-winded rant about how he's been working with computers his whole life and doesn't need any help. If he can't figure it out, I certainly wouldn't be able to. I just responded with, "That's cool, man. I just thought monitors had to be plugged into work. My bad." His entire face turned red, and he looked like he wanted to die as he realized both monitors were unplugged. Me, who's the best dad in the world, my daughter, mommy, me, little shitty. Your daughter should become a great comedian one day. I knew a guy that always felt the need to one-up everything I said. I was on the phone with my girlfriend at the time, and he happened to overhear us talking. He came up to me and started to brag about himself, loud enough for my girlfriend to hear, and how he could steal my girl just by talking to her on the phone for 10 minutes. I offered him my phone and my girlfriend reamed him out for 5 minutes straight before he handed me back the phone and walked off. I was so proud of her, haha. Me when I was a kid, made fun of a girl in my neighborhood in front of people, then proceeded to try and do a bike trick and break my wrist as they all watched. There was an arm wrestling trend going on at my high school during my junior year, and there was an all-star athlete on my basketball team we called Pat, who was very cocky. He wasn't the best on the team at basketball, but he started in every single sport, and he was absolutely jacked for a 17 years old. One day he challenges this semi-mentally handicapped kid at our school to an arm wrestling match over who gets to use this particular tool in shop. This kid is pretty big, but he's a bit slow, so he got teased a lot. Anyways, they get set up. Everyone's watching, and the match starts. 15 seconds go by and Pat couldn't move this kid's arm at all. He just sat there smiling at Pat and watched the smug and cocky attitude disappear. Then he easily pinned his arm and let Pat use the tool anyways. He walked away humming to himself like usual. What a boss. Once I saw two young kids, probably like 13 years old, try to cross the street. A guy in a pickup truck yelled at them to get out of the way. The kids had the right of way and said something back to the guy. The guy loses his shit and jumps out of the truck acting like a harder and got up in the one kid's face screaming and yelling. When he took his eyes off of the kid he was yelling at to yell at the other kid. Bam. Right hook to the face from the first kid. He got dropped with one punch. The two kids took off like the road runner. By the time the guy got up they were gone. That guy was probably 20 years older than them and got wrecked. I imagine he had to go to work the next day with a big shiner and had to lie about what happened. It was so awesome. He totally deserved it. A girl in my English class said that she would score a 100 on our end of course test. She made everyone feel bad about themselves and thought that she was the best in the class. In the end, she scored a 64. I got promoted at a ref McDonald's. Wow. Over some other girl. I didn't even know I was being considered until a day or two before the managers voted. I was told to come in the next day in my new uniform and the other girl came in, saw my uniform, and quit on the spot. She accused me of stealing her promotion. I found out from an assistant manager that they were openly considering her and tried to push her towards things she would need to know/do, and she would never take the initiative to learn more, do more. I actively tried to learn more, mainly to get out of service and into the kitchen. Fuck the public, and was well liked by most of the crew/management, and someone randomly tossed my name in the conversation. There was this annoying woman in my department at work back in the early 80s. She was one of those who had already seen it/done it better during any topic of conversation. It bugged me because it seemed to me that the bulk of her claims were products of her imagination. But many of our co-workers thought that Lynn was so cool. She knows so many famous people and has visited all these exotic places. Well, she crossed the line with me in 1980 when I was fortunate enough to get front row tickets to a Queen concert in Detroit via a scalper. I paid $45 each, but it was worth it. That was back in the day when the front row folks were squished against the stage so that we rested our forearms on it. Both Freddie and Brian shook my hand during the show. Of course, since I was willing to spend that kind of cash to see them, it only makes sense that I was a huge fan and knew a lot about the band and its history. Come Monday morning I go to work and talk enthusiastically about seeing Queen so closely, and Lynn interjects offhandedly, "Oh, I remember partying with them back in the day when they played small clubs. I remember seeing them at / some small downtown Detroit bar and playing cards with them backstage later." I looked her in the eye and replied, "The first time Queen ever played in Detroit was at the Ford Auditorium in February 1975. They've never played club dates in Detroit." She just gave me a frozen smile, patted my arm and walked away. After that she never interacted with me unless absolutely necessary. A high school friend told a group of us he couldn't get together with us over a college break because he started playing semi-pro football and scouts were coming to see him. He never played in high school, but was on track and cross country, so while it seemed unlikely we thought we'd surprise him by showing up at his game in support. Got the game info from his mom, and it was a bar league flag football team. He was crushed when we showed up. Ex-girlfriend was hostess at a swanky restaurant in Seattle. She was looking down at her book when some people approached the dais and a guy said, "I need a table for 8. She said without looking up, "It's probably going to be at least a 90-minute wait." Voice says, "But I'm David Copperfield." X says, "Then maybe you can make a table appear." Finishes what she's doing. Looks up. It's actually David Copperfield. No table appeared. I worked for a Mercedes-Benz dealer. Lots of a-hole customers. but one in particular was just a dick. He'd throw a tantrum if he couldn't get in for a service appointment with zero notice, and pulled a lot of "do you know who I am" crap to try to get his way. He came in one day and made a huge production of buying a $100,000 car, made sure everyone in the dealership knew he was buying it and exactly how much it cost, drove it into the service bay to smugly show it off to the techs, rolled the top down, and blasted his Lamb A8's music as loud as he could on the way out. Super cringy. About 3 hours after he left with his new car, he walked back into the service bay absolutely losing his it and demanding his money back because the car was ruined. Sure enough, here comes the tow truck with his pretty little convertible in tow. Turns out genius had decided to show off his car to his work buddies and parked it on the street with the top down, then popped inside to conduct some business. Welp, a downpour came out of nowhere and drenched the interior of the car, totally ruined the electronics, soaked into the upholstery, and he couldn't even turn it on. The thing was essentially totaled, and he'd had it for 3 hours. It was amazing. I beat out a guy for a promotion. He was super loud about everything and always talked about basically how awesome/smart he is. After I became his boss, he stopped taking lunch with the other guys and sulked around the shop until he transferred to another shift in a very dramatic way. It was like when people post they are quitting Facebook, but in real life. Found out later he got fired for being a giant turd to his coworkers. I try not to be petty, but I admit I got a chuckle out of it. One of the bullies in my school constantly made fun of the new kid for having a small d. The new guy's family had come in from Spain or something, and the kid was really nice. Since he was so different from all of the other kids at school, the girls were kind of into him. I mean, he probably could have picked any of them. So the air decides he is going to start the rumor that the kid's got a tiny d and is gay. Says he saw his d in gym when the guy made a move on him. This goes on for a week or so, and finally the bully decides to knock him over and pants him. But not just pants down to ankles. He stole his shorts off of his body and started to run away. This kid from Spain stands up revealing some tighter red, I want to say satin but not sure, underwear. Some people snicker, but it's business as usual to this kid. No big deal. Kind of like a Speedo, and this kid is packing. I mean, it's outlined there for everyone to see in all of its glory. I swear this guy winks at the hottest girl in school, grabs his backpack and heads to clown in his underwear. Doesn't even go after his shorts. That dude became a legend. His family moved again like a year later. The bully? Well, he became known as the guy that couldn't handle Sergio's amazing penis. When I was a kid, a new guy showed up at church. He was inordinately proud of the fact that he had a PhD in communications and insisted everyone call him doctor, and he was old enough that it's not like he just got his doctorate. He basically treated everyone else like uneducated rubes because he was a doctor. Welp, the neurosurgeon, the anesthesiologist, the radiologist, chief of radiology at the biggest regional hospital, the 3 dentists, the 2 orthodontists, and a handful of other people that I have no idea what they did all started calling each other doctor as well. Weirdly, Mr. Communications stopped insisting everyone call him doctor. One of my co-workers, Tim, was featured in a large publications article on the overscheduled American child. It followed him and his family about their day as they rushed their children from music lessons to sports teams to a whole bunch of other activities. The parents wouldn't even let the kids fool around in the car. They were told, "Is that a good use of your time?" The parents were proud. They said it would instill a necessary work ethic for their kids to get ahead in the USA. That same week, we were on a team conference call. Voice only. Snoring sounds started interrupting the meeting. It finally got so bad that the manager did a roll call. Tim? No answer. Snoring continues. Tim? 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 Everyone starts laughing as Tim startles awake. He never lived it down. US Army. Basic training. 1988. We had a certified gunner in our platoon that was so hyped on guns and shooting he was certain he was going to outshoot us all and get the BRM award. Basic rifle marksmanship. One of several awards given out at the end of basic training. He was always trying to correct the trainers and teachers in the shooting classes. Always hyping up how much of a sniper he was going to be, how many guns he has, etc. He had to qual twice and barely made the cute off the second time. Me, never fired a rifle before. Followed the class and range training, got the award. Him, didn't say a word the rest of basic training.